We've seen this over and over again. We've seen this with people who have done similar things with automobiles. So it's not just guns, it's not just planes, it's automobiles, it's everything. The problem is the drug. That's the elephant in the room that they won't talk about. But of course, they'll talk about how they're going to manipulate the door. They'll talk about so many different other things, but they won't talk about that, Paul.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's already been confirmed basically by Bild, which is a big respected German newspaper, that this co-pilot that crashed the plane, Andreas Lubitz, had spent 18 months under psychiatric treatment. He had recently split up with his girlfriend. He was suffering from, quote, depression. And actually today they found documents within his apartment that suggested he was being treated for a mental illness which he had hidden from his employers. So, of course, the relevant question to ask, given that he'd been under psychiatric treatment for 18 months, and in fact that he was under treatment during his 6-month break in his flight training when his friends said he was depressed, is whether or not he was on SSRI drugs and what specifically those drugs were. Now CNN is walking back and reporting that he was never under any psychiatric evaluation whatsoever, contradicting all these other reports, which, as you alluded to, is interesting because they never talk about this link to SSRI drugs in the aftermath of these mass homicide events. And I ask the question again and again, do you think it has anything to do with the fact that, you know, pharmaceutical giants who produce these psychotropic drugs like Zoloft, Prozac, and Paxil spend $2.4 billion a year on direct TV advertising with big mainstream networks and with news networks like CNN. And this never is a part of the national conversation after these mass homicide incidents. So we can go back and look at the history of this. You know, James Holmes, the Aurora Theatre Batman shooter, it took 9 months for us to find out that he was on Zoloft, which of course is directly linked through numerous studies with incidents of mania, violence, aggression, homicide, and suicide, but they kept that under wraps for 9 months until it was finally revealed, and there are numerous other cases like that.
Oh, absolutely. You know, we stopped watching, and my family stopped watching television in terms of just sitting there and having the entire feed go through with all the commercials and everything. Of course, I keep abreast of what's going on. I typically do that by watching news clips on YouTube. But I don't just sit there and leave Fox News on a television channel. We couldn't get television where we were in 1993. So since that point, I haven't basically listened to it. So when we travel and we go into a hotel room, I'm absolutely amazed, Paul, at how one commercial after the other is about drugs. And that was not even that was not done at all when I used to watch television, when I would just sit there and sit through the commercials. That's something that's happened, I guess it's about 10 years or so ago. But as you point out, that's their major sponsors. So they're going to try to walk this back. We know that SSRI drugs are the favorite candy that's handed out by the psychiatrist. And we know the side effects of this are to exacerbate the very conditions that people go to the psychiatrist for. If they've got depression or suicidal thoughts, they hand them an SSRI. And if you look at the insert, it says that it increases the likelihood, that's one of the side effects, that it might increase that, especially if they go off of this after they become dependent on it.
Exactly. There are 22 international drug regulatory warnings on these psychiatric drugs, citing effects of mania, hostility, violence, homicidal ideation. And that's why in dozens of examples over the past 2-3 decades, they've been linked with these mass shooter incidents. I mean, look at Adam Lanza, look at Sandy Hook. They kept his medical records under wrap, despite the fact we know he had Asperger's syndrome. We know he was being treated, but they covered up his medical records even after a Freedom of Information Act request, which we reported on in 2013, because according to Assistant Attorney General Patrick B. Quaneschi, if we found out what pharmaceutical psychotropic drugs Adam Lanza, the Sandy Hook shooter, was on, it would, quote, cause a lot of people to stop taking their medications.
Yeah, you think? I think we have to really question what's going on when we've got a a drug that's being so widely used, as you pointed out, 22 different places, talks about how violent it can make people, how suicidal it can make them, how homicidal it can make them. And we see this linked in one shooting after the other. Yet we want to shut down medical marijuana. We want to use violence to shut that down, but send out the drug that makes people violent.
I had to stop and get my vitamins for the month.
I got mine in the mail yesterday from DiscountNutritionShop.com, so I'm here, totally on time.
DiscountNutritionShop.com?
Yep, they're a lifesaver in more ways than one. They have all the nutritional supplements you need, the major brands you know, plus you can save up to 10%. Write down this number, 888-908-4548.
Huh?
888-908-4548. Or just go to DiscountNutritionShop.com.
There are hundreds of silver products on the market today, but there's nothing like the astonishing health benefits of the multi-patented One Silver Solution. Boost your immune system at a great price with our Silver Solution liquid in regular and extra strength. Our silver soap, made with all natural organic ingredients, leaves your skin clean and refreshed. Call 844-USE-SILVER for your free catalog. 844-USE-SILVER. Or go to OneSilverSolution.com. OneSilverSolution.com. There is only one silver solution.
As if chlorine in our water weren't bad enough, now they're adding ammonia?
It's true. Some municipalities are now adding ammonia plus chlorine to your water supply. It's a disinfectant called chloramine. But with a trusted Big Berkey water filter, you can keep chloramine out of your water. New NSF EPA certified lab tests show EPA Berkey water filters remove chloramines, pharmaceuticals, BPA, pesticides, bacteria and viruses, all forms of fluoride, and much more. Big Berkey water filters are the original and most trusted on the market. The gold standard in water purification. And our filters last for years at less than 2 cents per gallon. Big Berkey, the one that's powerful enough to purify stagnant pond water. Get your Big Berkey today. Call 1-877-99-BERKEY or click BigBerkeyWaterFilters.com. That's 1-877-99-BERKEY. Big Berkey Water Filters, for the love of clean water.
InfoWars Life and InfoWarsLife.com is extremely excited to announce our latest release, Winter Sun, a revolutionary type of vitamin D3. Winter Sun is a premium quality vitamin D3 nutritional supplement. It is produced by extracting oil from healthy, nutrient-dense plants known as lichens. Every batch is analyzed for purity and D3 content. It's completely free of toxins and allergens. Simply put, if you want the best at an extremely low price, this is it. Winter Sun is the result of our pursuit of the best source of vitamin D3. The research and development took over 2 years, but the result, as verified by independent laboratories, is the best vegan vitamin D3 product in the world. Read the facts at InfoWarsLife.com about Winter Sun Vitamin D3. Not only does vitamin D3 promote a healthy mood, but vitamin D supports our memory and brain function, something the globalists are targeting. Visit InfoWars.com today or call 888-253-3139.
More and more people are discovering the incredible benefits of alkalizing the body, and there's no better product for it than AlkaVision Plasma pH Drops. Packed with a powerful combination of the most alkaline minerals and compounds, just a few drops in water will rid your body of harmful waste and give you more vibrance and vigor than you've had in years. Now buy 2 bottles and get $10 off your order. Call 800-518-7615 or visit alkavision.com. Alkalize your body. Supercharge your health at alkavision.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of a house being trashed while a gang of thieves ransack the place. And what they don't steal will be destroyed.
You can prevent being the next victim of a break-in. Go to faketv.com and discover a device that creates the illusion someone inside is watching TV, even when you're miles away. Security is a mindset, and Fake TV should be part of your security solution. Be vigilant, but not fearful. faketv.com.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host in Austin, and joining us from the UK is Paul Joseph Watson. And of course, Paul and Alex Jones have put together a very detailed report with both text and links and videos breaking down how this has been developing for several years. Now, I want to talk to Paul in this segment about how our reporting is being spun by the mainstream media And then we're going to talk in the next segment. We're going to play some clips in the next segment from the way this is being sold at the county commissioner level by the military. So we're going to play a few clips and comment on how they're conducting this psychological operation. And that's what it is. That's what unconventional warfare is. It is a psychological operation. It is an info war. They know they've been losing the info war. We can see how they've been mismanaging this, for example, by first claiming that it doesn't exist, that it's just a figment of our imagination. Oh, they can't see the documents. They can't follow the links to Scribd, let alone come to our site. And then we see that same approach being done by the mainstream media, most of them refusing to even mention InfoWars or tell people where they can see our presentation of what's going on here. Of course, even when they do, they usually spin it. About the only one that I've seen that was fair and balanced was Daily Mail, certainly not Fox News. Paul, what about the way they're spinning this? They're really creating a straw man, saying that, we're claiming that the government is going to launch martial law this summer. That was never the claim. They're saying that once everybody sees that martial law doesn't happen this summer, then everything that we've been telling people, all the documents that we've been showing people, that'll all be discredited.
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, Fox News last night came out and named a libertarian talk show host in Austin, Texas. They dare not name Alex Jones or InfoWars. They're perfectly happy to do so if they're demonizing us. Yeah. Of course, then they'll throw Alex's name all around. But if we've actually got some content and some information that's serious and important,
I wouldn't have minded it. I wouldn't have minded it, Paul, if they had said libertarian, but actually they said he was right wing. I would say that Fox News is right wing, R-E-I-C-H. But yeah, they said we were right wing, and then it got picked up by a libertarian source, meaning Drudge, is what they were saying on that.
So they didn't even mention Drudge now. It's amazing.
Yeah,
but,
they didn't mention Drudge.
As you said, you were talking about it earlier in the show. Even Gawker came out last night and said that it was, quote, unsettling. Mm-hmm. And Gawker is a left-wing Washington, D.C., I think it's based in D.C., gossip rag that routinely sides with the Democratic Party and normally repeats all this, right-wing conspiracy rhetoric about us being extremists and, fringe believers. So the fact that even they called it unsettling and they drew attention to the logo for this exercise, which is, I think it's a knife surrounded by arrows, which is pretty creepy. They called it creeping fascism.
I think that's a perfect description of this. I think that's a perfect description of this. This article that you put together with Alex Jones really does lay out the creeping fascism that we see developing here. I think that's very important. I think that was a wonderful way to characterize that. If you want to put it, boil it down to two words, it is creeping fascism. We're not saying that it's going to be martial law. We're not saying that training is against posse comitatus, but there's something wrong when you're training to take over the country, when you're training against Americans, and that quite obviously is what they're doing here, Paul.
You cannot deny, David, that this training is at least dual purpose. Obviously, yes, it's designed for foreign occupations, which have been pretty disastrous over the past 10 years, I think you will agree.
Oh, yeah.
So even that in and of itself is a concern. But it's also domestic. To claim that this is not also for domestic preparation is completely deluded if you actually read the Army's documents, which have leaked over the past several years, specifically the 2012 U.S. Army Military Police Training Manual, Civil Disturbance Operations. The clue is in the name, civil. And throughout that document, they make clear that this is for, yes, overseas operations, but it's also for CONUS within the continental United States. And when that came out, I was neurotic about documenting with screenshots, which you can see in the linked original article, where they repeatedly mention that this is for within the United States or U.S. territories during civil support operations. That's a direct quote. And of course, it lays out plans to kill rioters, to re-educate people who resist, to support, quote, U.S. policies. So this is domestic, and that's what this whole article is about pinpointing the fact that this whole preparation over the past 10, 20 years has been for domestic purposes. But according to the mainstream media, that's a fringe conspiracy theory.
We got to go to break. We're going to come back, and we're going to listen to what they're telling people at the county commissioner's offices. And, of course, as you pointed out in your other article, Paul, that in Jade Helms Jade Helm, the troops are going to be operating undetected amongst the civilian population. How does it help them to practice their ability to blend in the local environment when they do that in a small Texas town?